Can you kill the lights?
This is the Kill the Lights podcast, and today we are talking about an awesome film called The Joker that is actually not for children. Today, I am joined by a buddy of mine who is from the 3 Point Landing podcast. His name is Misha Licaros.
How you doing?
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subbing for my co-host, Joey Dizon.
Always happy to help.
The Joker film is directed by Todd Phillips, the same guy who directed, apparently,
They directed The Hangover and Old School, if you can believe that.
all the three Hangovers, right?
Yeah.
So he was a comedy director.
This is the same guy who put Will Ferrell in a pool full of KY jelly.
Very inventive guy, apparently. So the Joker is about Arthur Fleck, who is a clown by day, and by night he tries to go to therapy, or at least tries to treat his various mental maladies with a therapist that is government approved. It's public health instituted. There is a lot of disappointment on Arthur's part. The main thing in The Joker, I think, is that Gotham takes center stage. There's no Batman here.
So don't bring the kids.
Don't bring the kids. It's rated R. At this point in time, there's been enough distance, I think, from the film that we can see it in a kind of bigger picture with the backlash, because there has been some backlash.
Oh, yeah.
The Guardian calls it the most disappointing film. New York Times calls it not even that interesting to talk about.
What I'm interested in is I don't know if they're coming from a place that they just didn't really like the movie, or they didn't like what it was trying to say.
Those are two very different things, and I think we should unpack those, right? For one thing, I am firmly in the camp of it was a fine movie. It borrows a lot from movies that we've already seen, especially Taxi Driver and Kings of Comedy, Scorsese movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, obviously, Gotham is taken from New York.
Absolutely. I mean, Gotham is a nickname for New York.
For New York, diba? What did you think about that? And we were discussing this when it came out, when you were at the premiere. You said it was an amazing film.
Yeah. I really like that basically they really owned up to basically this is New York. They really grounded it in a way that was more that felt more real than any of the previous versions of Gotham City, because Tim Burton had his gothic Art Deco thing going.
Yes, very Baroque.
That was cool. And Chris Nolan, I mean, it was just Chicago. It wasn't trying to be anything other than Chicago. You look at it, I mean, they were trying to be gritty, they're trying to be dirty, but for me, nothing is quite as gritty or dirty. I don't know if it's a pop culture thing as 1970s New York for some reason.
The horrors, the trash, there was very significant. Trash was not being picked up because
super rats.
Super rats, huge rats strolling around. How much more gritty can you be? Like, there's crime committed by kids on almost every alleyway. One of the first things that happens to Arthur during his clown job is he gets accosted by a bunch of feral kids. Takes his sign. When he chases them down, he gets beaten up by the kids.
Absolutely. And for me, this is the kind of New York that creates somebody like De Niro's Taxi Driver. This is the New York that creates something like even Daredevil or the Ninja Turtles. They came out of that. It wasn't this Disneyland New York that you got now, where it was all sanitized and gentrified. So I can really believe, I mean, I really see why they chose this setting to put Arthur Fleck in and show you how far a guy can be pushed before he snaps.
Yeah, it's kind of like that theme, like man versus environment. Yeah. There are things about it that I really love. Yeah, I mean, the story is just fine for me. But I really loved how they evoked the setting, and I really loved, of course, the performance of Joaquin Phoenix. I think it's the main thing that people should watch.
Incredible. Yeah.
What did you think about it?
He was just. Well, this is like a whole nother level. I mean, you expect a good Joaquin Phoenix performance, right? But this guy just went above and beyond. He lost 50 pounds. He studied people who actually have this that laugh disorder.
I mean,
was scary.
That was real. I didn't know that was real. You know?
And I
Seems
think,
like it pains him every time it happens.
because he's trying to stop it, but it's involuntary.
Yeah.
And something I think that gets a little bit swept under the rug, or gets sidestepped in light of his later transformation. A lot of people are overlooking the fact that at the beginning of the movie, he's just like a regular guy trying to do good, trying to take care of his mother.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
who is also mentally ill.
Mm-hmm. And when he finally does go over the bend, go over the edge, you can't help but feel bad for him. This is a tragedy all the way through. And I think even if you can kind of predict where it's going, I think how they got there was pretty well done.
How they got there is still pretty worth the watch.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing that has been controversial about it, I think, is people have been walking out of theaters.
I heard.
Saying that the violence verges on irresponsible. It promotes violence. It denigrates mental illness. I, for one, don't think it's deserved.
I think we've seen more disturbing, more violent films in our time.
Right? Like, for example, if this was Jaws back in the day, nobody would want to go to the beach afterwards.
I heard they didn't for a while.
For a while, right? Now we can laugh about it because, it still holds up. The story about the shark hunter, Ahab type, right?
Yeah.
But you would definitely still go to the beach afterwards because, the shark effects now. And of course, we've had some distance. I think there is a greater symptom here of art being pushed down because it is actually the way to push culture. Not to desensitize it, but to actually confront things that we need to confront. If you take that away, there is a void, I think, that happens. If you just turn away, if you just don't look, if you close your eyes and say, no, I don't want to see that, what happens then, right?
No, I agree with you. I think art, don't get me wrong. For a lot of the time, I do enjoy movies that take you out of reality, that just get us away from the grind of daily life.
Pure entertainment.
That's fine. That's fine. But there are other kinds of films, other kinds of art where you want to be uncomfortable or the artist wants the viewer to be uncomfortable. I think that's what we got here.
Absolutely. And I think there is a lot of discussion to be had about not only mental illness, but urban planning, for one.
Or lack thereof.
One of the things we were talking about before we started recording was it doesn't surprise me, or it makes sense that Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, is one of those financial dicks.
He's the 1%.
Yeah, he's the 1%. And it makes sense that he would disown, because Arthur thought that he was his father, right? And it makes sense that when confronted with that, he wouldn't go, oh my God, you're my long lost kid.
Right,
Let me take you in my arms, embrace you, and give you the life you never had.
Yep.
No, of course, he's like, your mother's crazy, bro.
Yeah. Well, I guess he's a billionaire. He's got a lot to lose.
Well, that's one thing.
Can I just say lang na, when we first saw Thomas Wayne, at first I was thinking, why'd they get the oldest guy they could possibly find to be Thomas Wayne?
Yeah.
And then you realize it's because they had to justify him maybe kind of being the father of Arthur. But, when you got somebody as good as Joaquin Phoenix, I guess, you're going to make adjustments all across the board.
Of course.
To justify it. But there's no way that guy has an 8-year-old son. I mean, how old is Martha, really?
Actually, and that guy is firing so many high energy. I really loved also the performance of Frances Conroy as Arthur's mother and Robert De Niro, of course, as the talk show host.
Yeah.
Comedy talk show host.
The supporting cast was superb. I feel bad for the mom, not because she was bad in this, but it's just every role she has is a suffering mother.
Oh yeah. Oh, because 6 Feet Under.
Diba? She's just always a suffering mother.
Wasn't she in that horrible Catwoman?
Yeah, she was. I think tayo naman yung nagsuffer dun.
Yeah,
we were the ones suffering for that Catwoman.
I love that costume, but everything else just crap. There was a video game made out of that.
That was really bad.
God, that was really so bad as well. But back to the film.
Yeah. Robert De Niro was fantastic.
Yeah.
He's only in it for a few minutes, but he owns every second.
That was a surprise, I think. I didn't think that Arthur would actually go for it when he became the Joker.
Right. For me, I think it's always a good time to see Robert De Niro playing to his strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's old enough. He could do whatever he wants. That's what he did. He's done a lot of silly movies over the years.
He's done a silly boxing movie.
And he did that Rocky and Bullwinkle one.
Mm-hmm. Well, he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, he can. He's Robert De Niro. But when he brings his A game, he brings his A game. And that's what I love. It's not like, sometimes Al Pacino, you can tell his heart's not really in it anymore. Mm-hmm. But De Niro's always good.
And it's a stroke of genius just to cast him in there as one of the inspirations for the film.
Right.
I'm sure Joaquin Phoenix got performance notes from him.
Oh, that's a crazy thing. Mm-hmm. I read somewhere now, De Niro, his practice is he wants to do a table read with everybody in the cast. That's standard practice. But Joaquin Phoenix doesn't. He did not want to do a table read.
Why? He said
he's not going to find the character by sitting at a table reading with everybody.
That actually makes sense, though.
I guess a little bit, but when you got Robert De Niro calling you to sit at the table,
do you actually dare refuse that?
Apparently, in the end, he got talked into it. He went there. He did it under protest. He just did the reading and he left.
Okay. So my question to you, sir, since obviously you're the big fanboy of the DC universe and you're on the other awesome podcast, 3 Point Landing.
Thank you.
Does this film deserve the backlash that it has gotten? And I think it's relevant because the reason for the backlash will affect, I think, viewer participation. Some people will not go to see it just because people have critics specifically have said that it is bordering on irresponsible. It promotes the glorification of the single white man who is an incel. It kind of denigrates mental maladies to the point that when the denouement comes for Arthur Fleck, we see not only the Joker, but somebody with mental illness who has become totally off the rails.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, okay. For me, I didn't sense that it was glorifying him or raising him up in any way. I mean, for me, I said earlier that it really is a tragedy all the way through. You see this guy's downfall and it's downright. It's Shakespearean what happens to this guy, kind of. But
it is Shakespearean, right?
But
formula.
As far as holding art accountable for people's actions, I've never really believed that, because like in the early 90s they were blaming video games for violence, and then recently again that talk has come up again about video games and films influencing mass shootings and whatnot. The thing is, the entire world watches these films and plays these games, but there's only one country that has a mass shooting problem.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's one thing. The other thing is I don't think that art should be held accountable for people's actions, honestly, because if you feel that you're going to be triggered by this, if you feel you're going to have a negative reaction, then it's on you whether or not you're going to go and see it. But that's your choice already at some point. In the same way that I can understand how there can be an outcry for something that's on public TV, because that's available for everybody. But if you're going to give money, your own money, to go and see this movie, that's on you.
So the added barrier to the consumption will actually prevent those who already are thinking of shooting somebody or like...
But that's the thing. If you're going to shoot somebody after watching this, you're probably going to do it anyway.
Exactly. I actually agree, because, you have... we always say in like self-defense, like there's the capacity. Do you have a gun that you can shoot people with?
Exactly.
Do you have the motivation? Do you want to shoot somebody? And do you have the opportunity?
Exactly right.
Like, is there somebody that you want to shoot and is right there?
I think it's just another in a long line of easy scapegoats, really.
Oh, wow.
Because, come on. Watching years of Jackie Chan movies doesn't make you a martial artist. So
some people think they do.
There are entire YouTube channels devoted to that.
YouTube channels that devoted to debunking
why
that.
should this one film be the end-all, be-all catalyst that sets off a wave of violence? I mean, honestly.
Yeah. I can actually see the point of some critics who say this thing will set off a wave of violence. Not that, because I'm firmly, again, in the camp of it's fine. What sets it way above the others is Joaquin Phoenix. right? The performance of it. It's like that Queen movie where Rami Malek outshines everything else.
In Bohemian Rhapsody.
Rhapsody. Like,
that thing was completely by the numbers.
Exactly.
But his performance. Right.
I mean, nobody was surprised. Oh my God. Freddie Mercury died of AIDS. Oh, wow. I'm so devastated.
What? He was gay, kind of?
He was gay? Oh. Okay.
All right, sure.
But here, again, it's that I would go to see it, and I do urge people to see it, because this is the kind of performance that elevates art and elevates the craft of acting to another level.
Yeah, for me, this is why we go to movies. You want to be taken to other places. You want to see things that you're not gonna see in real life. But in this way, they took somebody who's so larger than life, so fantastical a character as the Joker, and they were able to ground him in something that we kind of recognize. And I think that's what makes people uncomfortable, because they never saw themselves in the Joker before. And now they're being forced to ask, what would it take? What kind of a bad day would it take for me to have that happen?
And that's another film that it took a lot from Falling Down, right?
Well, that was good too.
That was awesome too. Another cathartic highlight moment for me is when Arthur Fleck says, they expect you. The hardest thing about mental illness is that they expect you to behave like you don't have it.
Well, I let you behave however you want. I accept you, Carl.
I mean, for me, it goes the other way. Like people were saying that it looks down on people with mental illness. I think it goes the other way by revealing these things and by tackling them in a way that is not sugar-coated, that is not at all whitewashed. These are the things that people who in their life have loved ones or friends or colleagues who have a kind of mental illness that is uncontrollable. These are the things that they need to understand and see, and hopefully by this exposure, gain more compassion towards these people, right? Now, not the other way around.
But just to be clear, I mean, we're not saying that this film is an entirely accurate picture of mental illness. We're not saying that the day you stop your meds, you're going to dress up like a clown and start murdering people. It's just that I think what a lot of people are uncomfortable with is having it just brought up so prominently in a mass media film, in a mass release film. Something that generally is swept under the rug, which I think is... that's the biggest problem with mental health in general, is a lot of people, they just don't want to talk about it. And now this film is forcing them to see it on a 100-foot screen. And they can't get away from it because, again, it's something as big and as popular as the Joker. And that's really what makes them uncomfortable.
I think it's a good thing, though. I mean, there's only good things that come out of being uncomfortable and forcing people to change.
But I can also see how that discomfort would be distasteful to some.
Yes,
who maybe aren't ready to talk about it.
Yeah, they are. They apparently. Yeah, I don't think they are ready, and they wouldn't expect it from a quote unquote supervillain movie, right? What was your takeaway from the whole film? Do you think it'll hold up? Because right now we're still in the soup of controversy, more or less.
Right.
It'll hold up in a year or so, a couple of years. You said to me before we started recording that Robert Pattinson and this Joker, Robert Pattinson's Batman and this Joker will never meet. So it would be great if we could see who's going to replace Joaquin Phoenix. But as a standalone film, maybe even not as a Joker movie, does this film stand?
I think absolutely yes. I think that maybe 5-10 years from now, when the controversy has died down and people have forgotten why they were angry at this movie, that performance will still stand out. People will still be talking about Joaquin Phoenix's involuntary laugh and his scary body language and dancing up and down those stairs, because that really that's what brings the whole thing together for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Props to Joaquin Phoenix and director Todd Phillips.
Yeah. Definitely.
Can you talk about your podcast before we go? What is it that you tackle? there?
Well, over at 3 Point Landing, me and my partner, Matthew Arcelia, we talk about movies, games, and TV shows from the perspective of the third world nerds that we are. Because, something that a lot of people take for granted, especially in more developed countries, is the availability of this kind of media, especially now with the internet. It's available for everybody. But for us, people like us, we grew up not necessarily with access to these things. We had to wait maybe a year, maybe more, or maybe we had to go to somebody's house to, borrow, to watch, or to catch up. So all the things that, but the fun thing is that whether or not we grew up with it or we grew up with it later on, it's fun to see how many of our paths interconnect, honestly, with the nerds on the global scene. And that's where we're coming from. We're talking about all the nerd shit that the world loves to talk about, but we're doing it from our own neck of the woods.
It's actually sweeter, I think, when you need to wait for it.
And also when you have no money to pay for it.
Actually, it's much sweeter when you get it. Okay, thank you so much. That was the Kill the Lights podcast, the Joker episode. We actually urge you to watch it since we would like it to still be in theaters when this comes out. But it is worth your money. It is worth your while. It is worth your attention. There are many things to talk about after you watch it. Please do discuss it with your family and friends and colleagues, not just the ones with mental problems. If you would like us to talk about other movies or other dark entertainment, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram and let us know in the comments. Thank you so much.